Thank you for listening to this Podcast One production. Now available on Apple Podcasts, Podcast One, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
Welcome to Killer Gene's Stripped Down, where we talk about everything true crime and then some.
You'll hear about the cases that are close to us and go behind the scenes of true crime reporting.
We'll also talk about case updates and breaking news, as well as speak with some of our friends and colleagues in the world of true crime.
Now, we're going to be sharing things we've never been able to talk about because certainly inappropriate to post online, but this is the platform that we can finally share it, what really happens when gathering true crime stories.
So, let's get to it.
And welcome to our final episode of Killer Genes for 2021 on this episode of Stripped Down. Now, we have Kerri Kasem, famed advocate for elder abuse. She has helped pass legislation nationwide, and she's also a radio and television host, just like her dad, the late, great Casey Kasem. Thank you for joining us, Kerri.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you, guys. I love what you both do. And, you know, Melissa and I have been friends forever, and I'm so amazed at what you both have put together. It's fascinating.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, long time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, you know, Kerri, Bitter Blood, Kasem versus Kasem, has been such a huge hit and success around the world. What was your inspiration to finally tell your side of the story?
We didn't get a trial. That's literally what it was. And when I realized I wasn't going to get a trial, which was not my choice in any way, we had worked on this 7 years, you know, putting together a case. My stepmother, who, for people that don't know what happened, my stepmother kept my brother, my sister, and all of my father's friends and loved ones away from him in what was to be his last year of life. And when I went to call the police, they couldn't help. I called Adult Protective Services. They couldn't help. I went to court and realized that in this country, once you turn 18, you have no rights to see your parents, especially when they're with an uncooperative caretaker that won't let you in a residential home or an assisted living. Different laws for the hospital, different laws for nursing homes. But I realized, oh my gosh, I may not see my dad again if I don't win this court case. And I was told by my first two lawyers I probably wouldn't win. In fact, they said, you'll never win. I fired them and got a lawyer that believed in my case. And we went forward there. And I thought, well, if I'm not going to win in court, I am going to change the law. And I did both. I won my court case and I changed the law. And I wanted to, you know, at this point, I was doing case and cares and getting hundreds of emails and social media DMs saying, please help me. I don't have a famous last name. I can't see my mom. I can't see my dad. I don't have any money for an attorney. And that's when I thought, well, I'm not just going to change the law in California. I'm going to do it in all 50 states. And that's what I've been doing. We put a case together for, 7 years against my stepmother. And unfortunately, without my consent, the case was settled. So I thought, well, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me and to anybody else looking for my case to set case precedents so that they could go into a court and say, look, this is what happened to the Kasem family. This is the outcome. This is what needs to happen with my family. That didn't happen. So I thought, let's do a podcast and let's put everybody on that didn't get a chance to speak at the trial. I'm talking doctors, nurses, caretakers, friends, loved ones, family members, because I have been telling this story for 8 years. I wanted it to come from people who were there, who were behind the scenes, who the media never got a chance to hear from. And that was, for me, very cathartic. I needed people to understand what really went on and why I fought so hard. Because unfortunately, the media, some of the media, made it like it was about money. And there was never an ask for money, ever.
And I think a lot of people don't realize, because I've known you for so long, that a small portion of the fight was about, what's right within the family. But it was over the overall always the overall picture. And it was just like that precedent setting, this is wrong, something needs to be done. And how many people can literally say, they've helped create a law, which is over, now in over, a dozen states in this country. And I remember watching you just get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and head to this state, then head to that state. And, Kelly, it was so impressive. I've seen video where she's getting like a heroic applause when she walks into some of these buildings, legislators and residents going through this, so happy that this bill has touched their lives, because it's just that little clause that can make such a difference for other everyday people going through this. What was that like for you to become what many people call kind of the Aaron Brochovich of elder abuse?
It was amazing. That was probably one of the proudest days of my life when I walk in and I'm with my team, my Case and Kerris team. I'm with Kelly Rooney, Mickey Rooney, who went through this. I'm with the Campbells, Glenn Campbell, their father, and they were with me. And Kathy Braun, who's my right-hand man, her father went through it with the same disease my dad had, Lewy body dementia. And it was, I couldn't do it without my team. I could not have done. We did 12 states, but I'll tell you, 9 other states adopted a version of the Case and Kerris visitation bill. So we've got 21 states. And I can't tell you that it's been my proudest, I think, moment that was, but the proudest I've been about who I am and what I do is in the last 7 years of helping people. And not only do I help people with Case and Kerris and the visitation bill, but I also do disaster relief, and I've been doing that for 10 years. The happiest I think that I am, the moments I have, some of the happiest moments in my life have just been helping people. And for a long time, my life was me. And I think when you're younger, it's kind of like that. And then you realize, wow, helping people is what it's all about. And my dad would always say that. My dad would always say, the most important thing you can do is be kind and help people. And that's what he did. Not only people, but animals. He was a vegan when people had no idea what the word was. They called him a vegan. And I became a vegan at 12 years old. I'm 49 now. And it's just, it's just amazing. You don't think your parents are right. And you always fight against them when you're younger. And then you grow up and wow, Dad was right about most everything. So, he was my hero and somebody that I talked to every day of my life until, I got cut off. And I found a light in me, a fire in me I never thought I had when I had the most precious thing taken away from me. And that's one of my parents. I thought there's no way. I was willing to lose everything, all my money, my house, everything. And that's how you have to go into a fight, willing to lose it all, because that is the most important thing to you. And you have to look at, I think, everything in life that way. If you want to be where you want to be in life, if you want to be the best at what you do, if you want to get something that people say can never happen, if you can make that happen, you have to be willing to put every ounce of your being into it. And when I was told I'd never win a lawsuit over a wife of 34 years, something kicked in. And I don't know what it was, but it was like, watch me. And I did it. It took me 8 months, and I did it mostly by myself with my lawyer who believed in my case. But, the rest of my family was in fear. They backed down, and I said, okay, get out of my way. And I fired the other 2 lawyers. I said, let's do this. And 8 months later, I won a case that was an impossible case.
Well, you have to really defy the norm. And you have this great quote that you live by, and you've done, massive speeches like on 10X. What is that?
Do the opposite of what fear tells you to do. And when you live by that, then you can really do anything, even the impossible. So I do that. I do the opposite of what fear tells you to do. And, fear was like, wow, I'm going to lose my career. I might lose my house. But losing my dad was not an option at all. So I just forged ahead, knowing I could lose it all, but knowing that I would regret for the rest of my life if I didn't fight with every ounce of my being to see my dad again.
Those are amazing words to live by daily, not just in the face of adversity. So thank you for sharing that with us. I have a question though.
Absolutely.
When you think of elder abuse, right? You think of the videos you see that are posted on social media of, the nursing home employee, assaulting the patient or, the resident. But what were some of the more shocking things that you think that people don't understand when it comes to elder abuse, and how many different layers it really has?
Well, it's, 1 out of 10 abuse cases are even reported. So it's really an epidemic in this country. But what an abuser does, no matter if it's elder abuse, child abuse, domestic violence, is they isolate the individual. And that's what we find mostly when you see guardianship abuse, when somebody becomes somebody's guardian, and that's in the case of Britney Spears. You isolate them, you take away their voice, their inability to talk. And so that is what we see. The first step to abuse is isolation. And if you can really head that off at the pass, immediately see the flags, which are, oh, mom or dad can't come to the phone. Oh, they're too tired. Mom or dad are not getting your messages. You can't take them out of the house anymore. The perpetrator starts vilifying the loved one. Those are all massive red flags. And what I've learned is people don't understand the mind of a sociopath. And a sociopath will do whatever they can to take this person out. I've never seen anything like it. They will do anything to take the money, the house, anything they possibly can to drain this person and vilify every single person trying to help them. And what is crazy is people think that they're going to change. They do not change. They will manipulate you. They will cry. They will tell you anything you want to hear, as long as they continue to isolate and take from this person. And I've seen it with second or third husbands or wives. I've seen it with a first husband or first wife. I've seen it with children doing this, where the other children can't see mom or dad. I've seen people with power of attorneys. I've seen just straight guardians who've never met the family do this. And this is happening constantly and everywhere. There is a film called The Guardian. I suggest people watch it, because you think this can't happen to your family. It can happen to anyone. I'm talking celebrities, to judges, to it can happen to other attorneys. It can happen to just family members. This happens all over. Somebody will come in and steal your loved one, place them in a subpar facility, and then take everything that they have worked their entire lives for. And these are sometimes people that have never met mom or dad, and they have been taken. And now try and fight that, it's almost impossible.
Well, it takes a lot of money to fight. Yeah. That's what people don't realize. Oh, yeah. And, Kasem Cares has spent hundreds of thousands and your partner, her own money to help some people. And that's what's frustrating for me is the amount of money that it costs and the circles that you have to go in. And a lot of the perpetrators are people that it's tough to go up against, like a conservator or a judge. And for people that don't know, Kerri and I were doing a documentary together before Bitter Blood, and then all of a sudden, I would be traveling the country with her, and that's when I started to see you do, what I've done my entire career with killers, which is ambushes, and going after these people that are so difficult to get a response from, and their title is so high, it's difficult to think that they could be the perpetrator.
Yeah. I mean, you and I went after somebody who was the chief of police. We don't need to say where, but he was the chief of police, and he was doing this to his own mother with his brother, and kept all of the siblings, I think it was 4 or 5 other siblings, away, isolated mom. Mom is still alive. Mom is still 6 years later, still alive, was isolated for 3 years with no visitors. Let me say this. No other family members were allowed to see mom, even though when she was first put in a nursing home, the 2 daughters went and saw their mom every single day, brought her food, looked after her. And even the other residents that got no visitors, they would visit with them. And then, the 2 brothers wanted to steal the home, sell everything that was owned, and keep the money. And that's exactly what they did. So what they have to do? They had to isolate mom. They told the sisters they could no longer see mom anymore. They made up lies. And this is the one thing that I don't understand, that in a court of law, hearsay is not admissible. Yet, when you see these probate matters, these family matters, and you see guardians appointed by judges, when they say something, even if it's just hearsay, the judges will listen and will likely just believe them instead of saying, where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? All these family members are bad people. Where's the evidence that this person is a drug addict and violent? Where's the evidence? You never hear that. Never. So they just believe them. And it's like, wait a second. Hold on. This when you vilify everyone in the family, who's the perpetrator? The perpetrator is the one making all the loved ones the bad people. That's the perpetrator. That's who you look at. And you don't see that very often in a court of law where they ask for just evidence. And it's sad because now mom or dad is stuck in a facility alone. And when you stick somebody, especially with memory issues, in a place that they don't recognize with no loved ones, they die 50% faster than people who have loved ones surrounding them in a surrounding that they're familiar with. So you're basically giving them a death sentence, and it's horrible. This one woman that's lasted 6 years she's lasted because her daughters have promised to get her out of there and promised that this would change. And I hope to God she holds on, because we've been fighting this one for a long time.
What do you think your father would say with all your efforts?
Oh, I know he'd be very proud of me. He was my biggest cheerleader, and he was so proud of me when I started my career, and just who I am. And he would tell me that, and I grew a lot, and I'm glad he saw, a lot of my success before he passed. And I feel like I really took after him. And he said something to a caretaker who passed it on to me, and it made me cry. He said that, I was, out of all of the kids, I was going to be okay. I was a lot like him. And there is nothing, and of course my sister and brother are totally fine, and they have careers on their own, and they make their own money like I do. But when he said that I was most like him, it just made me cry, because that was something I strived for. I looked up to him. I wanted to be a lot like him. And that was probably one of the best compliments from my dad I ever got.
And there's also some unfinished business. It's not resolved, in any way. His body is still in Norway. Yeah. Is there a plan? And I know it's a long process. People don't understand the tears that you have to fight with the sector of elder abuse. It is the most difficult, I think, genre of crime to really go after. But when it comes to his body being in an unmarked grave all the way in Norway, what is the plan? Is that something you will always strive to do, is to bring him back where he wanted to be?
I will bring him back. And it's not even him, because he believed in reincarnation. He was a very, very spiritual man. And so he believed we are, spiritual beings having a human experience, right? So when you leave this earth, you don't drag your body along with you. When and most religions believe you go somewhere after you die, like heaven or hell or wherever it may be. I think I don't know a religion that doesn't believe that you don't carry on. So when he passed away, I do believe that he was with me, and was with me for a very long time. And he would not believe that he was stuck there in a coffin in his body. So that's the one solace I've had with this. But he did want, to be buried in a place where people could come by and leave flowers or, grieve. He knows that people do want to have a resting place that they can assume they're visiting the loved one, right? So that's where he wanted, his resting place to be, was in Forest Lawn. I will bring him back. I will definitely do that. And when I say him, I will bring his body back to California, where, his last request was. And so it might take some time, but that's definitely that would be, I guess, the final end of this entire chapter, and I can move on with that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, when does closure come for you?
Yeah, that would be it. That would be it.
So, just transitioning a little bit into just the entire world of going after predators, elder abuse to murderers and sexual predators. This is a world that you never thought you would be in. You were a radio and television host for many years, just like your father. And this has brought you into a new platform. You have a new voice, that a lot of people are paying attention. What are some of the, advocacies that you were fighting for? And when it comes to just the entire world of true crime, it's become something of one with you. This is something that, you've become a detective, you've become an investigator helping others, and it goes beyond elder abuse. What is it about, justice that just is a cause for you?
It's weird when I hear of any unjust action that has been taken against somebody, I want to fight. I don't know. I never knew I had this in me, but I want to fight for them. I want to go after those people like you, like both of you who deal with criminals, who deal with murderers, who deal with people that are the worst of the worst, right? You want to go and get justice, or you want the story to be told. You want justice, but you also, I've seen people that will just look at one side of things, and that's the way it is. You got to look at both, and you have to make a decision. Are they telling the truth? Are they not? But a lot of times, because I can see a cookie cutter predator, I'll know exactly. And, I've been fooled before with people who are the predators coming and wanting help. And now I know, okay, there's questions you can ask. There's ways you can look at a case and you go, okay, who's telling the truth? Boom, that person is. And it took me years to figure it out. But I have a fire in me and I want to fight. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing, but it's, sometimes it scares people because I'll go straight up to somebody, and I've had umbrellas put in my face. I've had like a book put in my face. I've had doors slammed on me, like both of you, and when you're trying to get to what's going on. But I don't know. I live for the thrill of it. I love it. And I like to expose criminals. It makes me happy, I guess you could say.
Kerri, what's your advice if somebody is experiencing something similar to what you've gone through? What is your advice on the next steps that they should take?
First, you've got to realize you're not dealing. If somebody's being isolated, somebody's being abused, you're most likely dealing with a sociopath, and they're not going to change. Do not in any way have sympathy for these people who are hurting the loved one. Because they truly have no sympathy for the loved one or for you or for anything in life. And people, if they don't understand that, they will keep thinking that something's going to change, or that crime, or that begging, or that, they're doing something to appease the person. They don't care. They don't care about you. So know that you're dealing with a sociopath. That's the first thing. Really understand the red flags. And that's what I gave before, the isolation flag. And immediately get your loved one on tape if they have the capacity, saying, if anybody in my care keeps me away from my loved ones, you name the loved ones. They should be removed from my care immediately. But hold up a newspaper, get that date right there, because I've seen people use video and they're like, well, we don't know when the date was. We don't know when this happened. This could be manipulated. And so just use a newspaper and get as many people in the room as you can. When mom or dad makes the video, tape those people. If you can get an attorney in there, tape that. And this is what, mom or dad wishes. So that's very important. That's something that I say every single person should do, especially if you think there's contention in the family with siblings, with wives or husbands, with an outside person, maybe somebody that has a power of attorney. You must make the wishes of your loved one known, have it on camera, and be holding a newspaper. That's very, very important.
Are you stressed out, wound up, or just plain worn out? Well, if you're looking for some help with that, CBDX just might have you covered.
You've heard of regular CBD, right? I mean, who hasn't? Well, CBDX has just kicked things up a notch with their line of products that include Delta-8 THC.
Now, it's a federally legal form of THC that you will absolutely feel. And take it from me because I use it. So if you live in a state where cannabis is not legal, CBDX might be perfect for you.
I'll testify on that. You will feel it. I've tried the gummies, and I think there's so many therapeutic things about CBD, and X really kicks it up a notch, and you can get it from vape cartridges, gummies, and concentrates. And because it's shipped right to your house, there's no need for those sketchy little handoffs or dealing with a dispensary.
Now, I will have to tell you, though, that CBDX products will show up as THC on a drug test and never drive or operate heavy machinery when using CBDX products. Because like I said, unlike typical CBD products, you will feel CBDX.
If you want to try it, go to CBDX.com. That's 4 letters, CBDX. Use the code KILLER for a 20% off discount and a free gift. There you go. So, Kerri, we're wrapping up the 2021 year. What are some of your year highs, whether personal or professional?
I would have to say there were 2 things. Bitter Blood, Kasem versus Kasem, my podcast that you and I worked on with an amazing executive producer, Eliza Rosen. And that really was very cathartic for me and getting out everybody's voice and their story about what really happened to my father. That was a huge, huge endeavor. And it really brought me some peace. And then the next thing would be going out to Haiti. Many people didn't know that there was another huge earthquake in Haiti that happened during COVID this last summer, August. I think it was August or September that they had this earthquake. And I said, I want to go help. I got on a plane with my disaster relief group. And there was only 2 Americans there. The rest were Haitians. And we went out there and just helped. And it was a sad thing, but unbelievably rewarding that we could bring food and bring help. And so I'd have to say those 2 things were the biggest highlights of 2021 for this genre. There were other amazing things that happened in my life, but those are the 2 things I'm most proud of.
You're constantly on a plane going to, natural disaster zones, which is so admirable. People will say, oh, I'll help, I'll go with you. But how many people actually hop on a plane and actually go and sleep in a tent, sleep in a car, and actually live off of what do you live off of when you're there? Candy bars?
That's the rice. No. Anything. I'm veggie, so it's hard for me. I literally bring my own food. I bring tons of bars and food, nuts and stuff that I can just live on if there's nothing I can eat. Yeah.
You're like moving debris and living off of apples. You're so tiny. No, it's incredible what you do. And, it's very admirable to watch.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I've seen you like the past 20 years literally get to tell a story or to get a shot. I mean, one time I remember you coming home and you had all your fireman gear on because you were out covering the California fires and you had literally been on fire. You were burned. And you come in, you smell like smoke, and then you're like, look, I was getting the shot. I think I got too close to the fire, and we look, and you burned a quarter size of your hair off the front. You remember that? It's gone. It was literally to the scalp. Your hair was gone.
It was so bad, Kelly, that the CBS anchor woman had to address it to the viewers, to be saying like Melissa McCarty was, had her, because there was a bald spot and I was wearing a headband for many days. And so it had to be actually addressed on air. But we lived together for many years. So I would come in and the entire house would smell like a campfire. And it was me just walking in the door from the end of my long, long day.
Yeah, I made her get undressed in the garage. Remember
she was like,
go in the garage.
Yeah, take your clothes off before you come in the house. I'm like, outside?
amazing.
Kelly, what are your, and I would hope that you would say killer genes, but what's some of your highs for the year?
Yeah, definitely on the killer genes front, I'm really proud of what we did with the DeAndre Lane case and the episodes that we did on his case and exposing what I feel is the injustice of a man that should not be in prison for the rest of his life without the possibility of parole. So, it's a case that I've followed for many years and became very close to and digging into and became close with a lot of the people. And I really hope this next year brings some changes for DeAndre in that case, and hopefully Bianca's found. And then, another case that I've grown very close to over the years was the murder of Faith Hedgepeth, and this year saw finally an arrest in that due to a DNA match that was found. So hopefully 2022 we'll see that trial, and hopefully we'll get some answers and some justice for Faith. And then, my side gig is working for CrimeCon and Crime HQ, which I absolutely love doing, being able to interview experts and victims and being able to work on that platform for cases. So, Melissa, what have been some of your highlights?
Well, a lot of people don't know, Kelly, you are the wizard behind some of the huge cases we see played out on national television, and it's incredible that I'm working with you. So I think this new audio platform, I think it's the future, and I think it allows us to soar and tell stories our way. I mean, I grew up as the network girl, and I was restricted, and I had to look a certain way and be a certain way and tell a story a certain way. And there were so many, hands in the pot for being on television or national television, where to have the freedom to tell a story how I want to tell it is what we've discovered with Killer Genes and podcasting. That's, to me, opened a door. It's just the creativity, and I'm excited for that in all of the cases that we're getting access to. And I'm just proud of the people that choose us, to say, hey, I'll tell you my story. I'll speak for the first time ever. Not Dr. Phil, not Dr. Oz. I choose you because I trust you, and I know that you'll help me. And that is what gets me going every day. And Kelly and I are working on stories that obviously we think are going to change their lives. We think that we're going to have an impact. And just to have that person say, you can do it, that's what I live for. I just go into another world when I tell a story. And I think that brings me peace. There's not everything that we can solve in this world. There's so many problems. It's day by day, but just to know that you're doing your part, one little bit for one family, one person, you want to have an impact. And I think that's the high for me, is having platforms to make an impact. And people don't understand universally how important human connection is and how important it is to relate through tragedy. I mean, I saw it firsthand with the Casey Kasem story, is, how much it affected everybody of all ages, and everyone knows the story. And so it's just the power of sharing and being vulnerable. And as tough as Kerri is, for her to be so vulnerable over the years, it is the epitome of being human and being able to connect people through triumphs and obstacles. And that's, I think, what life is all about. And before we wrap up the final episode of the year of 2021, looking forward, any news you want to break? Any exciting announcements?
Some exciting stuff is happening, and I can't wait for it to happen. We can't say exactly what it is, but look for me, look for Melissa, look for all of us in 2022 with something big. And that's where I can leave it. And then when we can announce it, we will.
Kerri, if people want to follow you and your efforts with elder abuse or come for information or send you information, where can they go?
Go to Kasem Cares, and that's KASEM, KasemCares.org. You can find me there. You can see the states we have the bills in, and the videos of everything we've done the last 8 years.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Follow Killer Genes on Facebook and on Instagram. It's at Killer Genes, the podcast.
Also, be sure to like and subscribe to Killer Genes on Podcast One, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hi, Killer Genes listeners. You know what makes for a great gift any time of the year and for anyone?
It's Killer Genes branded merchandise. We've got what you need to show off your killer genes.
Everybody has killer jeans, so why not flaunt yours? You can do it with hoodies, socks, mugs, hats, and even wine glasses with our killer logo.
So for you or that true crime lover in your life, visit our collection today at shop.podcastone.com.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Van Mall, host of I Survived. If you enjoy I Survived, we are excited to announce a new launch. Starting November 15th, we'll be reposting our classic episodes from Season 1 of I Survived. We hope to reach a whole new audience with these important stories of survival. And for those of you who have been with us since the beginning, we think these powerful episodes warrant another listen. Starting November 15th, look out for those episodes and more news from I Survived.